Welcome back to KingWoes Court. Episode 32 is inbound, and I have a very special guest with me today. It's an old friend of mine, and he has the coolest name in the world because it's the same as mine. And he's got the cooler letter, of course, you know what I mean? But a very, very, very amazing musician and person, I have to say. I've always, held this gentleman in very high regard, and he knows that himself. It's actually Mr. Karl Simon from the Gates of Slumber. Karl,
Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you, my man?
I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, doing all right, thank you. It's what time is it? It's around 3 o'clock your area, isn't it?
Yeah, just three early afternoon around here, 3 p.m. or so.
This is great for me, getting in an early 8 p.m. is an early slot for me. It's great.
Nice.
So thanks, I appreciate it.
No worries.
It's as I was saying, it's great to see Gates of Slumber back. It really, really is, and I'm sure a lot of you, because I know you have a big European fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was saying to a couple of people, I was like, "Did you know Gates of Slumber were back?" And they were like, "No." So then I had seen one of your rehearsal videos. I was like, "Yes, class," because of course, it's. We had a good connection since we toured together, and I've always kept in touch with you and everyone in the bands over the years. But just to see you playing that music again, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. What it's all about. Yeah, that's what it's all about. But I need to stop waffling, and I need to get you do a bit of talking here. Karl, tell me how Gates originally started off, if you don't mind.
Oh, this is back to the old days. Well, so Chuck and I, the drummer of Gates of Slumber, we had been in a band called The Keep, which was a very proto band. Right. We had cut our teeth with Jason playing in punk rock bands and stuff like that were fun. They were fun, but our roots were always more in hard rock, all three of us, which is a fairly common thing, I think, for our generation here. When we moved away from doing punk stuff and trying to be, a band more like what we liked growing up, to varying degrees of success. And as we, in the warm-up, we were talking about egos and drama being young kind of just got in our way. And Chuck and I kind of split paths. And I was like a very novice player in the late 90s. I'm going to do this myself. And I started writing these songs and, had people in and out of the proto lineups of the band, did a demo. And then everything, again, more interpersonal drama, which is what it is. It just seems to go with the territory, unfortunately. I'd always promised Chuck, I was like, well, if ever there's a big break, I'll give you a call. So, things fell into place that he joined the band. We started, working, and then the bass player I had been working with at the time, he quit because, the concept of a big break means different things to different people. Yeah. For some people, it's just like, oh, we got $50 for this show. It's like, yeah, we drove 12 hours. We got $50. It's like, he was just like, he's done, and that left it wide open for Jason to come into the band. And that was it. That was the beginning of I guess it's impossible to say original lineup because I hate that because it disrespects all the people that came before and had contributed to it. But that was the one that started touring, the one that made the records. We did 2 albums with Jason on bass, Chuck on drums, and then of course myself doing the other crap. We managed to get, some label attention, and we managed to go over and do a fairly lengthy tour, and it was great. And the little egos started popping off. And next thing you know, Chuck was out of the band, and then we did our second record. The guy, Chris, who played drums on the first demo, came back into the band, but then, issues that are really everybody's fault. My fault, his fault, Jason's fault. Everything seemed so important back then when it really wasn't. But hindsight is 2020. You know, it's crystal clear. He was in and out of the band, one record, and then it's a real shame, but it's the way it was. And then Bob, of course, joined the band at that point, and you know, we did the Reverend Bizarre tour, and then we were back over again, and we did a tour with Earthride, and then we toured with you guys, and Crown and Glory.
That's right.
We did that was the Irish tour, and you know, and then it was just do, and then you know, we moved from I Hate Records to Rise Above Records, and that alienated like a lot of the True Doom Underground. It's so funny to think about that, the True Doom Underground anymore. You know, I wonder how those guys are doing sometimes. But you know, it is what it is. It's like you just keep moving along, and through this whole process, you know, like we were talking about in the warm up, like things started to fall apart as far as like our personal lives, and you know, Bob eventually was he is a great player, but he was not. I don't think he was ever really happy with what we were doing. Right. I think he wanted to do something else, and then he moved into that direction, and then we got Clyde in the band, and we did the Wretch album, and then drugs really got bad at that point for everybody. And it's not, you know, I like I was saying in the warm up, like in the intervening years, there's been a lot of time, you know, a lot of alone time where it's just like, why am I the only one that's still here? What, you know, and there isn't really an answer for that, and it's really not a question to ask. No. It's
I won't ask it.
You're gonna ask it. You know, it's like, you know, it's very difficult. Like we were saying in the pre-show thing, it was just like there are great times in my life where I'm the only person left who remembers it. And that's fucked.
That's polarized,
you know. But you know, so that's kind of the story up till now, you know.
It's a very interesting one, I have to say. You know. So you got Chuck back in the band recently, which is, again, it's great to hear, and it's almost like it's come full circle. It
has. I mean, after Jason died, I swore that I was never going to do it again, and I moved on, and me and Chris started doing Wretch, and that was good. That was really good time.
Good stuff as well.
I think it just ran its course. You know, like, and again, it's not all him, it's not all me. It's too tumultuous. You know, it was just too tumultuous. And then also, if I'm honest, it's like it was very quickly painted into a corner. Like in a lot of ways, I look at that Wretch record as sort of like a personal epitaph for like those songs are all of them dealing with Jason's death, my feelings around it, me starting to confront my own issues. Like it's all that. That's all that stuff is. And I just, you don't want to live there. You don't want to live there. You don't want to live constantly in this state of grief and mourning. Because it just grinds on you. And you know, during much of the Wretch period, like, you know, my mother was dying, and it was just too chaotic. And Chuck getting back into the band was the whole band coming back was basically due to Wolf Moolman. You know, he was just like Hell Over Hamburg. He was like, he just kept emailing, and like the first 10 emails was like, dude, the band is done. We can talk about Wretch. Which we never did, you know, because it was just, you know, you're this, and then why aren't you doing this? You're doing this. It's like, well, this is dead. Now there's this. And that's my own definition. Like, I'm like, the things again, like I was saying earlier, it's crazy. Like I have these walls and compartments and boundaries in my mind that don't exist. They're just in my own head.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who gives a shit about that stuff. But anyway, Wolf just was like, you should come and play the show. And then, I wrecked my body yet again. I'm prone to going too far, whether it's with narcotics, whether it's with drinking. Recently, and when I was younger too, I was before music was a thing. It was just something I listened to.
Yeah.
I was always into fitness. Like I wanted to be Arnold Schwarzenegger when I was a kid, but I just a little too chubby to really do that. So I got into other forms of weightlifting and stuff like that. And in the transition away from, the party lifestyle was getting into fitness. And I took that to extremes. I was in a bad way. My mother had passed. I was having real issues in my personal life. I was having issues in my professional life. The band was broken up. All I had was working out. And we were at this gym, we were doing heavy sled drags, which for those of you who don't know, is where you have a fucking sled and you pile it with weight, you grab the goddamn thing and you just pull. And it was 1.5 times our body weight. Jeez. And it just wasn't moving. Like that was, I forget what to say, 1.5 times my body weight at that time was about, it's about 300 pounds, 320 pounds.
You're not a small guy, and I mean that in a good way.
Well, it's got its downside. If I was smaller, I might have been able to survive that one, but it just wasn't moving and I wasn't having it. So, I just doubled down and ripped the meat off the fucking bone, ripped my Achilles tendon. There was a wet snap. My face hit the ground. And at that point, everything dried up. Like, everything dried up. And it's good that it did.
Yeah.
It's really good that it did because I was on a death trip.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Like I've recently been able to come clean about I had a car wreck. That wasn't a car wreck. That was me trying to kill myself.
Yeah.
I wound the thing up to 140 and took my hands off the fucking wheel.
Jesus.
Walked away from it.
There you go.
Fucking ridiculous.
You're unkillable.
I'm stupid is what I am. I'm bone fucking stupid. But, in the middle of the early days of the recovery, Chuck was coming by to see me, check on me. Wolf was emailing me still. Yeah. He emailed me again. And this was all in the space of a few days. Chuck comes by for the third or fourth time to hang out and just make sure I'm doing okay. Yeah. And then, Wolf emails me, and then Ollie from Church Within Records is just hey, you want to reissue the first record? And it was just all these little sparks. And I'm like, this rule that says that you can't ever touch this again is just in your head. Yeah. It's a promise you made to yourself that, frankly, Jason would have hated.
Really?
He would have hated it. I didn't want to touch it because I didn't want to deal with the feelings about him being gone. And we got back together, and the only real caveat was just there's gonna be no stress. There's nothing here we're going to stress about. We're not going to fuck. I mean, there were literal screaming arguments over the Hymns of Blood and Thunder cover, for example. Yeah. There were literally, the band is breaking up, Pistols at Dawn arguments over the size of the fucking horns on the guy's helmet. Way. Oh yeah. We were just 3 fucking dickheads. McCash I love the motherfucker. Yeah. He was a goddamn dickhead. Bob and I had real fights. I can be an asshole. He was an asshole. We're all assholes. We're not good people. Really, we weren't. Not always. There was good and bad. Yeah. And, and just irresponsible, fucking drug-addled, drunken schmucks that would literally argue over nothing. So it's just at this point, and even during the Wretch things, I literally, when we were doing the Wretch records, the Wretch record, I just was like, I looked at the engineer and I was just like, do you like the mix? That's good, because your name's on it. I'm not a fucking mixing engineer. I don't know shit about making records. I know shit about nothing. I'm not that smart. I'm lucky I can hold the guitar, much less play it.
Yeah.
You know, the cover art. I told Will from, you know, Bad Omen, I was like, you like the cover art? That's what's on there. You know, Sabbath didn't get to pick their cover art.
Yeah.
If Sabbath doesn't get to pick their cover art, why does anybody else? It's not my job. I don't know shit about graphic design. So I'm hands off now. Like, that's for other people to argue about. I just worry about, like, am I playing the guitar fairly well, and does my voice not sound like shit?
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about that. It's just, this is the voice I've got. You know, like, I listen back to stuff like Trapped in the Web and how pitchy the vocals are on that. It's just because I wouldn't accept the fact. It's like, no, you don't have those kind of pipes, son. You don't. You can't sing like that. You're not that kind of vocalist. Better rearrange it, or just go and have a pitchy record.
Yeah. Like that. You have to. I now am at the stage where I know my limits, and when you get out that little bit older, there are limits. Like, you know, not everyone's like Ronnie James Dio. You know what I mean? So, you do get to a point where you have to say, right, well, I'll try this, and then if I can do it, I'll keep it up on there. But if I can't, then what's the point in trying? Well, I mean, keeping it, like, should I say?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, like, shit. Like, we started working on Trapped in the Web recently at rehearsals, and I'm like, who was I ever fooling, thinking I can't hit those notes? Like, maybe alone in the shower once? That's it. But on a stage 5 nights in? No. It's not going to happen. So it's like, you know, getting far afield, I kind of lost the thread there. But would you
consider reworking some of the older stuff to maybe?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, it's like when we on the first record, when we did that tour just recently where we were over and we did Hell Over Hamburg and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody noticed, but we trimmed a lot of the fat from some of those songs, like a lot of the solos, and, you know, particularly those long ass solos. It's just like, who the fuck did I think I was? I am not fucking John McLaughlin. This is not Mahavishnu Orchestra. I am not that good a guitar player. Like, for hours. No. Like, brevity, coming to the point quickly, having it be melodically good, and staying in my lane and knowing my limitations. So we reworked a lot of that stuff. And, you know, with the stuff that we're working on now, like, trim it up. Trim it up. There's no reason to play this riff 19 times. Yeah. 3 times tops. It's good. You're beating the audience to death. If they want to hear the full version, they can put the record on.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? It's a great way to look at it as well. Especially, like you say, like, I mean, if you're gonna try and bring it into the live arena, I think you need to. You really do have to think about that, don't you? At certain times. Like, you know, you can make a fucking 9, 10, 11 minute opus, but you don't necessarily have to play it live. You know.
No, and you shouldn't. Really, you shouldn't. Like, you're beating the audience up. Like, not everybody is as into the trip as you are, you know. Yeah. Sometimes it's like you have to think about, you know, the people that are there. And I think that this is something that, like, I really became aware of, you know, as at the end of the Gates of Slumber era. I was just like, nope, to the point, short and sweet. There's no reason to belabor these points. There's no reason to do this because it's not, you know, brevity has become like my new thing. Like, I don't think I could write a 10-minute song now.
Yeah.
Like, I just
don't want to. You don't want to, do you, at this stage? I think you just, like you say, short, sharp shock to a point and enjoying what you're doing at that stage. Now, right at this moment, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, and that's just where it is. It's just like, I mean, it's fun to, you know, hear people will sometimes, you know, send an email or something like that. Why didn't you play God Wills It? It's just like, because it's fucking 30 minutes. We couldn't even track it at one go. It was stupid. Yeah. It was stupid. It had to be cut in sections. Yeah. You know, it was all ego. Like, it was very ego driven, and like, I'm not into that anymore. I just would rather, you know, I would rather be friends with the guys I'm in the band with and know my limitations and Like, if you like, you're not feeling it, let's go get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We don't have to. This is not do or die.
Yeah.
It never was.
Yeah.
And that mentality just was bad.
Yeah.
It leads to like this thinking where it's like it has to be this, and if it's not this, it's garbage.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you probably feel that you can probably relate to what I'm going to say to you now. I mean, I miss when we brought out our first record. There you go. We were like a gang, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we always we hung out together. We had each other's backs. And over the course of many lineup changes, it does that waters down so much. And I just feel like I'm a one man gang now. You know what I mean? But I'd love to get back to feeling that way. You know what I mean?
I think that a lot of that also has to do with getting older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like you can't. It's easy when you're young to, every day is spent with your friends. You're just out, whether you're at band practice, or you're going to drink, or you're going to whatever, you're going to a concert, you're going to a movie, whatever, you're with your friends. And then, people, smart people get married. Yeah. They have a family. Like, I miss that, I never realized how much I wanted kids until it was too late.
Yeah.
I mean, which is not too late. I guess I could still have kids, but I know Debbie's, it's like at this point to be I'd be in my 50s.
You still have a lot to offer though as a parent though, I think,
Oh, I'd love kids. Like, I absolutely love kids, but I was focused in other areas and really looking into, feeding my own ego. Which is just like, way to go, way to work it through. My mom died without grandkids.
Yeah, that is one way of looking at it, but try not to dwell on that.
Well, I mean, it's just a thing. It's like it's there. It's just there. It's always going to be there. It's just something you could leave it unsaid, I guess. Maybe that's a problem in my life, is I don't leave enough things unsaid. But it's just like. That's why the gang, like, it's a good time and a place.
Yeah.
Your teens, your 20s with your friends, and then people should start to build a life, because it's other people's time. Like I sit and I'm thinking to myself, is like, I'm not, there's younger bands that I have no idea about, because all I listen to is just like shit from when I was a kid, like a literal kid.
Yeah.
That's all I listen to. Like, fucking 70s AM gold. Like, if it's not Al Stewart, it
sucks.
Well, I mean, it's hang on. Sorry, I was getting a phone call.
That's okay.
But it's like, like, all I listen to anymore, like, we talked about this through emails a little bit, like, I've really been into like a lot of Gaelic rock. Like, Horselips is like my favorite band these days. Horselips and Nazareth, like Ireland and Scotland.
Yeah.
That's like what I listen to now. And, it's all just classic old stuff that is just so well written and played. And it's particularly with Horselips, it's like, it's not heavy.
No.
Like, it's like they have some heavy moments where it's just, but it's like, it's very pretty. It's very evocative. It's incredibly melodic, and like 3 multi-instrumentalists in the band. It's like, oh, he's playing small pipes, now he's on the piano, now they're on the violin. It's just like, I can barely do one thing. So I mean, that's like, I guess, which is like, I don't listen to modern music at all. I just don't know it. And I don't pretend like I should be sucking up the oxygen in the room either. I'm more than happy to just be, if anybody wants me to play, that's great. I'll play, provided that I can. I do have, I have real world things, like my father's in poor health, and that's the focus of my life right now.
Of course,
really. Just taking care of him, being a good man, hopefully getting married within the next few years, like,
nice.
working on engaged, but just trying to get a good date and a good time that fits with, her family.
Yeah.
Because she's got kids. So
Awesome.
it's got, and you have to live based on other people. I think that's part of really growing up, growing into adult, manhood, for lack of a better term, is you learn that you have to, your needs and your desires are not irrelevant, but sometimes you're serving them better by serving other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, and consequently, it's like, if, oh, I don't get to go to the rock and roll show, I don't get to hang out with my friends, I don't, like we were supposed to do this the other day and I didn't get any sleep.
Yeah.
I had to be present doing other things.
Absolutely. And that's life, that's it.
Yeah.
But there you go. I mean, if any, you could say that to me and I'm like, yeah, no problem, man, anytime, so that's what friends do, isn't it, really, when you think about it? So well, before we move on, there was one point when I was playing someone, I was so engrossed in the band and I nearly lost my whole family. So like that, the day that I realized that, it changed me, and then I was able to enjoy. Obviously, my family life was first, but then I was actually able to enjoy what I was creating more than, and it actually even opened up because I would be very linear when it comes to writing lyrics, but in terms of, it actually opened up a little bit, so just a small little bit, just to give me a little, different take on things,
Yeah. Putting things in a proper perspective and ordering your life such that the real important things are being taken care of helps. It absolutely helps, because it's sort of like, cart before the horse, ass over tea kettle, all the little fucking cliche sayings. It's just like, if you're taking care of things, you feel better. Yeah. And if you feel better, you're like, creatively things are better, emotionally things are better, you sleep at night, and you torture yourself less.
Yes, very true. Karl, tell me this, who were your main influences as you were growing up? Like, I know you were saying you listened to a lot of old stuff, which is great, but what kind of influenced you to get into playing guitar and then forming bands? Black Sabbath. Lovely. Black
Sabbath was like the touchstone of my young life, from a very early age. Like, the music that I was surrounded with when I was younger was like a lot of stuff like Gordon Lightfoot, Glenn Campbell, Al Stewart, Judy Collins. Like, my parents were my mom was a hippie, my dad was a country guy, they listened to, a lot of that kind of stuff, which I love. Like, that's, to be completely honest, that's what I listened, like I was listening a minute ago. It just, I can remember listening to this stuff as a very young child, and it's comforting.
Yeah.
And then, like, MTV happened, and I don't know how it was in Ireland, but here it was like normal stuff, like commercially viable material up to a certain point, and then at night they would switch over to long form concerts and these kind of things. And as all young kids do, I snuck out of my room, went to the TV, put it on, and dialed through. And then there was the Sabbath stuff from the Beat Club,
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not Al Stewart. I like this.
Yeah.
And, it's just like that, like, started this burning, like, and, the dark, heavy imagery of, like, hard rock and heavy metal really just kind of pounded on my brain. Yeah. Like Motorhead, Iron Maiden. And it was, a lot of classic video stuff at that time. And it just seemed dark and edgy, and that was it. But Iommi was like Sabbath was just the best thing ever. Yeah. And still really is. As far as like moving from like a position of just a fan into like somebody who can be a part of it. Like, Iommi was, everybody, it's funny, people think about it and they're just like, oh, Into the Void, big heavy riffs. Yeah. Really, if you pay attention, he's an amazing soloist, like
Yes.
really as good as, if not better than, most of his contemporaries.
Yeah.
Like the Technical Ecstasy album is just chock full of like, he can play that thing to a degree that, you know, a lot of the people, like, that's the funniest thing, like the whole Stoner Doom thing is like, it's just Sabbath worship. It's like, yeah, that's just like maybe one or two like riffs. Mm-hmm. Very few people are playing the solo to It's All Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that song.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I think, you know, this has been a topic of conversation for years, is that I would have loved to have heard an entire record with Bill singing.
Yeah, it would have been
Bill's
interesting.
got a beautiful fucking voice.
Yeah.
But it was St. Vitus, like David Chandler's crazy freak out, and that punk rock, like, we're going to do it. Like, of all the bands, like, for me, like, top three it's probably Motorhead, Sabbath, and St. Vitus. Just because there was this magic in their sound that it's like, they did it.
Yeah.
How? I don't know. They did it, and it worked. Yeah. And it worked great. Like, they've never done, I've loved every St. Vitus record, just like I love virtually every Black Sabbath record. Like, I'll defend, like, for like Forbidden. I defend that. It's just like, you know, it wasn't their best. No. But St. Vitus, on the other hand, every one's just all dead-eye hits. And it was like, well, I don't have to be able to play, you know, all this beautiful, intricate stuff. I don't have to be like this virtuoso soloist. I can be somebody who's purely emotive and evocative. Yeah. And I don't, there's no wall. And that's, I guess, the punk rock thing, is there was no wall. It was just like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So the Chandler was a huge influence as far as that goes. And it was off and running from there, you know. And, you know, other, you know, like Uli John Roth, which, again, I can't play nothing like that. But, you know, it's just like, that was another big influence. His tone, especially like shit like Dark Lady, like the weird, like, wish I could make my guitar do that. I don't know how the fuck to do it, you know?
You gotta try, though. You gotta work on this, man.
I do. I just don't think anybody needs the volume at this point, because I think 99% of that is feedback and volume, and then it's just like, it would just, it upset the cats. Can't do that.
And your poor band members
who don't want to listen to me trying to figure out how to do, like, I'll get it next take.
Hey, leave me alone. I only get to do this once a week. I'm doing it. Leave me alone.
Yeah, you know, can't be that self-indulgent.
No. You've played some nice shows over the years, haven't you? You've enjoyed your. I know you. In terms of playing on a stage, you've had some really nice shows to play, and you've played with some, like, you know, big bands. Throw a few bands who you've really enjoyed playing with, but, you know, that were well.
Cathedral.
Oh yeah, I went to see, that was great. That the two shows in Dublin and Belfast. That's one band. Well, them and Slayer are the only bands that I haven't played with. I've played with most other bands that I love.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah, and that to me is sorry for cutting in on you there. That to me, that's a level of success I'm happy with. I'm absolutely happy with it. I played with Crowbar like 2 times. Like, that's, to me, is
it's good.
Awesome, you know what I mean? And so that's my level of happiness, you know what I mean?
And I mean, and that's a reasonable and sane, like the whole overarching thing about, like, keeping your head in the box. So it's like, that is a great, like, you know, that's a great mark of success. Like, I got to share the stage with these people.
Yeah.
And you know, playing with Cathedral was awesome. Touring with Cathedral was awesome.
And that was a perfect mix. It was a perfect grouping, if you know what I mean.
Particularly that Church of Misery, like them, like being able to, like, call Tetsu a friend. I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I love Tats. He's the man. Other great ones, Reverend Bizarre. I love playing with Reverend Bizarre. Like, they were fun, good people.
Yeah.
The Skull was awesome to share the stage with. Like, particularly, like, like some of their first shows in the US got to do, and that was great. Like getting to talk to and hang out with those guys. I mean, really, if I think back, it's just like a lot, Earthride. It was always fun to play with Earthride. I love Earthride. Like, Sherman and Kyle and freaking Eric and Rob, the bass player, they were really true. I don't even know what the hell happened to Rob. I don't know where he went. I think he just dropped out of music, which I can't blame him. It's just like he moved on in his life, which is good. If he's happy, that's good. And just some of the other events, like I'll never forget the first time going to Rome on the Earthride tour, and Makash waking me up, in a pizza and wine out like that. Like, let's just walk around. It's like, because we're in Rome, so it's like, okay. We get up and we walk down to the Colosseum, and we walk the Stations of the Cross, and just walk all throughout Rome. And it's just like, I miss those. I miss that time. Like, we did the same thing the first time we were in London. It's like, let's walk down. Let's just walk. Yeah. And those are the good memories. Yeah,
it's nice to have them. It really is.
First time we ever played Stab City, Oh,
yeah. And you survived.
Yeah, we did. That was a great run. That was a great run. Like, it was a great time.
And I was just I don't know if you remember this, but when you guys stayed in my house in Dublin, you had gone, I think you had gone up to Belfast, and we were following you on. And I'm looking in the bedroom, and you left a pair of socks in my bed. Do you remember that?
I was always losing things.
Well, you said to me, he goes, "Oh no, I normally do that when I'm staying in a place. I leave a pair of socks." I was like,
"Well, I would throw them in the trash. I didn't mean to leave them in the bed."
It's okay. We thought it was funny at the time. We were like, "What the fuck? He's got some weird things he does."
Well, I mean, actually, that was stuff that Jason had taught me, because he was the most experienced musician in the band. He had done a lot of touring with the previous groups he'd been in, a couple hardcore bands, and he was always like, what I do is I have a new package of socks and a new package of underwear, and every show the old ones go into the trash. I put the new ones on, and then then that's how you cycle through the thing. Otherwise, now that I'm not on the road anymore, I've had socks that have been with me for 10 years. And I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Puppet show.
Exactly.
I have to say, I really enjoyed sharing time with you, and I suppose even learning from you as well when you think about it. I don't know, sharing and learning, how to just, you learn something from every band you play with, I feel, whether they're big or small or whatever, And every gig is a learning experience for me, as well as a performance, so it's always good to get different aspects of big bands or bands in general, we'll say,
Yeah, it's true. You learn, the thing, I guess what Gates always had is, and this comes from like time working as a stagehand, is economy of motion on stage, getting on the stage quickly, and then just as, if not more important, getting everything out of there as quickly as possible. Like, that was one thing that I was always very happy with. We were very fast with our, because it's just like, it's just you got to make the changeover quick, because you want everybody to be set. Like, the headline, I think that's one of the reasons why we got to do those 2 cathedral tours back to back, is because we were so out of the way we just got the hell out of the way. Now, the downside, of course, was when we drank all the beers in Spain and we got a talking to.
Oh.
We were bad. We were terrible at that. Like, just big time boozers. Big time boozers.
At least that's boozing is not the worst thing. You know yourself.
Oh, it can be though.
Can be.
It's it can be a real nihilistic trip. Like it can get really fucking weird. You know, and that's like I was saying earlier, it's like I'm not dry. It's not like I'm trying to stay in a better frame than I was 10 years ago.
Well, I actually think now, and I mean this as in a good way, I think you look younger now than you did when we played with you. You know, you look fresher, you really do. And it's...
Well, I mean, it's like a pivot, like trying to eat healthier, you know, staying away from, you know, heavy drinking. Yeah. Like it's very different. Like again, like it's a different world, you know, dropping shots of liquor and beers and then, you know, lines of fucking, you know, like God, we were such fucking morons. Like I remember when we were doing the Conqueror record, we crushed up an 80 milligram oxy and put all the cocaine we had left in, and that was our nightcap.
Jesus, yeah.
You know, yeah, that was so. Yeah,
that's what made a great record.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed the record happened.
I think we'll wrap up now if that's all right with your good self, because you know, like I mean, I could talk with you all night, but I mean, I think maybe further down the line, I'm sure you'll come back on with me when you have a little bit more to tell me about Gates of Slumber and what the future will hold. You said you were recording. Are you just writing? Are you at the moment?
Yeah. Right now we've been working on material for the last year or so. It's just when we only get one day a week for a few hours, and then, you know, and then you just don't always get, like, you're not always inspired. Yeah. Like just in the last few days, I've like started to put words to songs, and, you know, putting things back together. It was like a dam that busted, and I was like, well, this song is no longer called The Keep. Hang on. Yeah. Okay.
There we go. So
like I said, you know, you're not always you don't always have inspiration. You're not always moving, you know. It's just like sometimes you're just going through the motions, and they're like, well, we're here. Like in the last few days, I was like, oh, well, this song that was now called The Keep is now called Embrace the Lie. And there's a whole song that comes fully formed. And, you know, sometimes you have to work at it. Like, I remember a lot of the things from the Conqueror record were things that took months and months. And I had like a notebook that I would like write and like change lines and do this and do that. Like that, it's almost like songwriting with a hammer. And you can make good stuff that way, but I'm always more happy with the things that kind of like just fall out. Yeah. So, you know, waiting for inspiration, and then just the time, you know, between all the things that everybody has going on, because, you know, Gates of Slumber has, you know, Apostle of Solitude, and there was Devil to Pay, Steve's other band as well. Yeah. You know, so those guys are busy, and family and just life gets in the way. So we're working. There's no like hard timeline, cool. And no one's demanding it either. You know, like maybe at some point the demands will be back, but it's right now it's everything at a very leisurely and fun pace.
Awesome. You know, and I think when you get to that feeling, or to be able to enjoy it like that, I think you get even better productivity, I think, you know?
Yeah. It's, you know, there's no reason to rush. No. Like that was like in the warm up, we had talked about, like, that was one of the things in Gates's old time, like we had to get things done now. And it's just like, sometimes 6 months is it's an incubation period for an idea. You know, it grows and it changes and it becomes new things. Yeah, sort of like the Iron Fist record by Motorhead. Yeah. It's a great record, but it's not as fully baked as Ace of Spades. You know what I mean? It's just like it's like missing that, and what that is the lived in, like, nope, we know this is 100% it. Not like, oh, this is the part. But no, this is the part. Like, it's those nuances that come out only through like repetition and letting, stuff kind of work itself out naturally, and letting the material lead the way.
Absolutely.
Versus like, well, we're gonna make it.
Yeah.
It's like
forcing instead of forcing.
Yeah, just let it be its own thing. You have to.
It's almost like birthing a child, isn't it? Really,
it is. Well, it's like so many other things in life. Like the harder, like, hold on loosely, but don't let go.
Yeah.
If you cling too tightly, you're going to lose control. There's a song in there somewhere. It's just like, it's just, you can't impose your will on the universe. You have to just go with it. You just have to just be there and like put the work in and take the time. And if it ain't fun, don't do it. And don't force it. The things that are natural in life will come.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's lesson of age, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think that's the perfect way to maybe close this episode of KingWoes Court. Karl, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again and reminisce and on good times, man. It really has. And you're one of the good guys, as I always say.
Well, I try.
You are.
I'm not always the best, but I try.
You're a good guy. I mean that. I'm looking forward to hearing the new Gates of Slumber, because, as you say, it's a short, sharp shock to whatever. I'm dying to hear what it's gonna sound like. I really am. Yeah, that works. Hey, it works. Dude, thank you very much for coming onto the show, and the very
thank you
best
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. The very best of luck with everything. Okay.
Thank you, man.
Okay, we are out of here. Adios.